Solasta is an action fantasy RPG series produced by Tactical Adventures, a small gaming studio around 35 people who have produced what appears to be a single game, Solasta 1, for which they have produced a total of 4 game expansions, and was successful enough to warrant a sequel. Like many of the people coming off the heels of Baldur's Gate 3, I was tempted to check out more of what the genre had to offer, and I found this. And I have never played or even heard of Solasta, so this entire review will be from the perspective of a completely new player. Let's go ahead and dive in. I'm Alec Ban with EGC, and this is D-Day. One of the first things I noticed, I like this autosave feature. One problem that I always have is forgetting to save the game after long streaks of gameplay before things that suck happen, so I keep that at the default setting. And we start the game. Cue a lore dump. 4 orphans on their way to visit an old adventuring friend. Cool, we have their origin and our destination. We enter into the screen and the environments are lush and gorgeous. I love the mana flow effects here, and high definition renders of the plants. It really makes the area pop with life. Tutorial time. Left click to move, right click or WASD and scroll wheel to adjust the camera. You can click or tab through your companions to change the leader. Walking along and we find a house with a new DIY addition courtesy of what appears to be a black dragon thanks to a wisdom check. For those who are unaware, this game is based on the D&D system. You roll dice in order to decide everything from discoveries to combat. We will explore this feature in detail later. You cannot click on any or all NPCs, and you cannot attack anyone you want, at least in the demo. Spells and abilities are on the bottom of the screen. You can click through them to activate them. I like this because everything for the most part appears organized, but it seems to be missing a quick access bar. Again, probably just a demo thing. Open the quest log, check our objectives, head into town, lots of buildings and NPCs to make it feel alive, but I can't enter most of them and none of them appear to be particularly chatty. This may be because of the game's design, or it may simply be because demo. This is yet to be seen, but it's happened in 2 places now, so it's becoming noticeable. While testing out who I actually get the chance to murder, I get a tutorial for cover that I miss, but I will cover combat once we get there. Some spells, like the light cantrip, have voice-acted lines, which is nice.
The light will guide us.
Check out the shop and confirm that it is indeed a shop. Notice in the top left it has a sympathy meter. It shows that we get a 10% discount. I don't explore this, but I'm sure it's probably local quest related. Find a lady whose head is far too big for her body, and this is how dialogue in the game will go. Those familiar with Baldur's Gate 3 are no doubt familiar with the dialogue system where the leader does all the talking, but that's not the case here. The entire party enters into every conversation and has a dialogue option. The street next to her is blocked, so we need to go around. Certain events require a group ability check where you need at least 2/4 of the members to succeed the check to pass. For those of you who are a little math challenged, that's half of you. Inventory management is per character. There doesn't appear to be a way to look at the party's inventory all at once, and there are no magic pockets that everybody can reach into. You have to transfer items, item by item. Access character sheets and the overwhelming amount of info in their individual main menus. And if a character needs to use, say, a potion, they must equip it as a usable item and then use it from the main screen. This will be annoying later when I start to discuss combat. Equipping things is as simple as a click and drag. Nobody objects to me lockpicking and looting in what looks like a military barracks. Interesting. A little bit more walking and the ground shakes ominously. Head to the elevator, but we can't use it, so I head south to find a lady worried about her friend. He's gone fishing but hasn't come back in a while, so we volunteer to check it out. Note, I do not have the option to not volunteer to do this. Meet with Ellie and she is precious beyond understanding. Her friend is also missing. There's a big dragon that's probably causing the quakes, and we volunteer once again before she warns us to watch out for kobolds. Let's talk movement in the overworld. There is no dedicated jumping or special movement button. Clicking where we want to go will make us do whatever we need in order to get to that spot if it's possible. Find these 2 merchants arguing over a parking spot, and I quite like this. We get a bunch of options, but we tell them the mayor will find them, and they unlock a nice little shortcut, which gives our in-game actions overworld effects and makes the choice actually meaningful. Nice. Talk to the mayor, and she tells us not to bother the dragon. She also goes by Your Honor. Why? She comments on us entering her house, which is a great touch of detail that she is actually aware of what we're doing in the game, but ultimately meaningless because I plunder all her stores and she doesn't appear to have anything to say in response. Now that I pointed that out, there seems to be a distinct lack of village guards, so I guess there's nobody to tattle to. Tough luck for her. Head down to the elevator and get a bit of party banter that's probably the best dialogue in the entire demo.
Hope none of you are afraid of heights.
The statues are as tall as the cliffs. Clearly, those who built this place really loved themselves. All right, be ready for anything. I'm not here for sightseeing. Did you hear that? Mother is back from the dead.
Don't.
About the dragon swimming in the water nearby, so it becomes immediately apparent it's not the one causing the quakes. There's a glowy spot we can click to get a vista shot of the nearby statue. Spot some giant crabs on the beach, they run away, so I shoot at one from afar, but it doesn't work that way. I try to attack with a ranged attack, and I get a prompt to attempt a surprise. I click yes, and the battle starts right away. Behold! Combat. Turn-based D&D style. Roll d20 initiative to determine turn order. Movement is based on a tile system. One object per tile only, and movement speed determines how far you can move in a turn. Hits and damage are based on dice rolls. The most important actions cost an action point, and certain less important actions called bonus actions cost bonus action points. Every character has one of each by default. Some special abilities don't cost any points. When you miss with the spell, the attack will veer off in a random direction or hit an object. This is a cool effect. Also, your team members will yell at you to remind you how useless you are, as if missing in an in-game dice roll is actually a conscious choice.
You suck.
There doesn't appear to be an option to throw weapons that I can see in any of the menus. This makes me pretty sad because I'm pretty sure it's a classic D&D option. I have a particularly fun memory of my friend and I playing Baldur's Gate 3, where he was a sorcerer who was forced to throw his boots. Good times. He got a crit. He did not kill him. Moving out of melee distance opens you to an opportunity attack, essentially a free hit. This is indicated by a yellow outline shown when you try to move away. Hovering over a movable area with your mouse shows an outline of your character, as well as sight lines, allowing you to see how your character will perceive enemies. This is an objectively great design feature. Another new mechanic to me is this indicator here that says the enemy has half cover. If you're firing a ranged attack at an enemy, depending on the objects between you and them, they get a defensive boost that reduces your chance to hit them. Cool. Certain characters have special reactions that can be used when the right conditions are met. I win and decide to take a short rest to heal. It shows me the abilities that will recover during the rest, and I get the opportunity to roll a dice to determine how much I heal, as well as something called a tune item, which isn't available during the demo, so we will not be covering it here. Make my way a little bit deeper in the mountain, and time to go over stealth. Crouch and make a detection ring. Anything that steps into the ring requires a stealth check. This is fairly standard. Pull to the kobold lair and the team talks options. The ones where we tell the kobolds we're friends sounds fun, so let's try that. Sneak down, grab the scale, and approach the leader to talk and convince him that we're all the dragon goons, so we should parley. They let us know they captured the stoneface and plan to make him a sacrifice, but we're not that rude, so we convince them to set him free. Side note, failing a roll with one character dialogue does not block you off from trying the other options, but it does take away the last option that you picked. Mijibori. He is far too calm for this given his circumstances, but lets us know that the shakes are actually the result of an ancient device gone haywire, so he tells us we need to fix it. But we can't make it to the area until low tide, so we need to long rest. But we get a warning that resting before rescuing the lost fishermen might be bad for them. So we head along the coast and find them surrounded by what I just realized would be a great Soviet Russia joke. Man-eating crabs. We rescue them, get absolutely nothing for it besides a thank you, and go back to camp for a long rest. Our rest healing dice are restored, along with all of our spell slots at the cost of food rations. And for some reason I cannot fathom, Joralis is extra hungry and eats 2 rations. You greedy bastard. Back in action. The tide has gone out, and we can move further into the cave. Note, I save scum here just to check if this would really have had an effect on the fishermen, and I get a warning about resting again. I rest to go find them, and only their items are left, implying that they became seafood. Deeper in the cave, we find the evil rock people and get to smashing. Certain enemies explode after death. Whenever choosing to examine them for further details, there is no indicator of this self-exploding abilities. Great. Backup bad guys come in, and I'm forced to deal with an additional mechanic. The nexus in the center is unstable and does damage to itself, as well as blowing up a portion of the surrounding arena every turn. If it dies, the party wipes. I can spend an action to attempt to negate the damage, but it appears that only Jabori has a 100% success rate. When Newt is in front of a rock person, he counts as half cover, because he's a dwarf. That's racist. When you want to use an item to heal, and you don't have an item already equipped to your character, you have to go into their character screen, equip the item, go back into the front screen, and use it. Why? Thanks to our diplomatic option from before, our scaled goblin friends from before have come to support us, reinforcing once again the fact that your in-game choices have in-game consequences, which is great. They wind up being pretty useless other than meat shields though, so I wind up killing all of the enemies myself. Cue cutscene, the presumed big bad makes an appearance, telling us how she's going to do an evil, and I must say she is really capitalizing on the one thing that makes every true supervillain. Our party takes up the Avengers pose, and that's the demo. So, what's the verdict? It's a classic action-adventure D&D RPG. And the moment I say the words, there is one thing on 99% of people's mind, and the small group of fans that follow this game are absolutely sick of hearing it. Is this game Baldur's Gate 4? If this demo is anything to go off of, no, it is not. A lot of people have come out in defense of this game because it gets so many comparisons to Baldur's Gate 3, and whereas Larian has hundreds of employees to work on and refine their resounding critical success, Tactical Adventures is a relatively small studio, and I think that argument has merit. However, I also believe that if you're willing to charge full price for your game and put it on Steam, you should make a game worthy of full price, and it is therefore fair game for full price criticism. The vibe of the game is definitely more classic D&D roleplay. I think it feels like a bunch of tabletop RPG nerds got in a room and put their play into a video game. The combat systems are mostly the same, with what I consider to be an overall worse and more restrictive movement system. The environments are absolutely gorgeously rendered with high fidelity effects. The inventory and item management is an objective downgrade, but this is a demo, so I hope that gets improved later. The story plot appears serviceable, but the characters' motivations to move it forward seem to be out of nothing more than pure altruism. We are good people who do good things, so we are going to go out of our way and fix things that aren't our problem. Compare this to Baldur's Gate, where we are actively trying to fix our own problem, and wind up getting caught up in more and more convoluted subplots. It is good versus evil, natural versus corrupt, with no apparent gray area. Now, to be fair, that is not inherently a bad thing. Personally, I love playing the hero in video games. But it makes me question what kind of choices will ultimately be offered up to the player, and whether their impact will have the opportunity to have far-reaching consequences, or if I will ultimately be railroaded into the hero path no matter how much of a dick I am to the locals. I believe the biggest draw that these types of games have, and where they appeal most to an audience, as demonstrated masterfully by BG3, is in the character writing. Witty, charming, feisty, and otherwise lovable characters that we get to know by their own little quirks and taunts as they venture throughout the realm. I think that the way the characters speak comes off as, ultimately, kind of bland in conversational choices. Nero will threaten to break a man's legs and bash skulls in one sentence, and then act perfectly calm in the voice of reason when calming a minor scuff in the group. Jabori is perfectly calm and coherent, despite being ambushed and kidnapped and locked in a cage held by scaly goblins. Compare that to the frantic panic of Shadowheart when she was kidnapped on the Mind Flayer ship, or Lae'zel when she was caged. Hell, Sasa the Goblin had more of a reaction to being kidnapped than him. The best piece of character writing in the demo is right here in the initial elevator scene.
Hope none of you are afraid of heights.
The statues are as tall as the cliffs. Clearly, those who built this place really loved themselves. All right, be ready for anything. I'm not here for sightseeing. Did you hear that? Mother is back from the dead.
Don't.
Newt comes off as considerate, which mostly aligns with his dialogue choices of negotiation. Nero refocuses the group, implying her as either the most senior or de facto leader, and what I love most is the subtle jab that Daisy pulls, implying her as a kind of comedic character, while Duralis is the voice of seriousness, taking offense to the use of their dead adoptive mother for laughs. But this gets undercut when you get combat voice lines like "you suck" or other mid-combat dialogue jabs that don't seem like they fit on a group of people who are shown to be total team players. Also, it's a little bit weird when the entire group starts to talk like they're all of a single brain cell, but my headcanon for that is that that's kind of just how family is sometimes. Sometimes the dialogue choices come across as the characters not being consistent with the type of person that they're meant to be in the story, and it makes it harder to feel connected to them. Honestly, the best writing comes objectively from every character that's not the main party. The merchants are jerks, Ellie is adorable, the kobolds are utter goblins, and the main villainess comes across with so much panache that I want to keep playing just for that. And for those who are mad at the Baldur's Gate comparisons, Amelia Taylor, who voices Shadwin, is the narrator from Baldur's Gate 3, and she is incredible at bringing this character to life. I won't lie. I had fun playing this demo. I enjoy what the demo had to offer, and I will likely be checking this out once it eventually drops on Steam. I hope the dialogue gets cleaned up and comes in with strongly defined characters, as well as a smoother UI. Seriously, Baldur's Gate 3 UI blows this out of the water, and there is no way you can avoid the comparison. All in all, I'll give this demo 4 orphans without worms versus Amelia Taylor out of 10. Thank you to anybody who's watching this. Please give it a like and sub if you enjoyed this content. A big inspiration of mine in this gaming space comes from the like of joshstrifehayes. He puts a lot of effort and thought into his game critiques and really dives into the game system so the player can feel what he feels when he touches a game for the first time. I hope this gives you a fresh perspective that you can take when you enjoy this beautiful hobby we call gaming. And I hope you check out this game Solasta too. Thank you again, and I'll see you all in the next one.